So folks, we have great pleasure of having Emad is originally from Gaza, and I'm speaking to him now. He's based in Germany, in Berlin. And through a friend of a friend, I'm delighted to get in touch with Emad to have an initial kind of a chat with him about life in Gaza and obviously the conflict and everything like that. So the people that's going to probably watch this, Emad, are going to be people from probably rural Ireland. And a lot of people mightn't understand the conflict because it's so far away, and it's in a lot of ways it's kind of hard to comprehend what's happening. And also
Yeah.
that there are great similarities between how the Irish people were oppressed from our neighbours for hundreds of years, and a very, very similar thing has been going on in Palestine for a number of years. I'd be very familiar with the history of Palestine and Ireland and everything like that. So I have a very good awareness of the similarities. So
Yeah,
can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
of course. Yeah. First of all, thanks, Damien, for having me here. Really happy to be here.
Mm,
And yeah, I truly get the support from the Irish people, and I also get how they can relate to our cause because of the amount of support that I see in videos, and also not only that, but also I was one of the people who got help, or the most help that I could ever imagine from an Irish lady, a friend of mine, and now I even consider her family.
yeah.
Um, First of all, my name is Emad. I'm 26 years old. My entire, or not my entire life, but like I was born and raised in Gaza, and lived there my entire life before 2021. I studied there software engineering and worked for 1.5 years. And then I was able to get a job offer here in Germany and made the decision to come to Germany. And I've been here for 3 years now. I'm actually based in Aachen, which is a small city west of Germany, right at the border between Belgium and the Netherlands and Germany.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and yeah,
So
during these 3 years, I visited Gaza 2 times. Yeah, you
so
can
tell
talk a
me
little bit
tell me
about that.
what is you see, we see these videos, a lot of people see these videos obviously after when the war started after October the 7th. Can
Yeah.
you tell me what life was like in Gaza? What normal life would be like in Gaza? Yeah,
So normal life would be like a bit different than what normal life means to us here in Europe or in Germany, for example.
yeah.
So before the war started, we yeah, we were people going to their work, daily work, to schools, to universities, and all of that. I can talk maybe about specific things, maybe about like how,
I mean, how does that like so Gaza is effectively is a walled city,
yes,
separated from the rest of what is Palestine. And you have a military presence there to to as a security force on the borders of Gaza and the land that lies the other side of it. Um, how does that presence, the military presence, how does that uh, assert itself on people in Gaza?
so yeah, Gaza is under a blockade actually. Um, like there are a few borders between Gaza, like there's one border between Gaza and Egypt, and like a couple more between Gaza and Israel. Um, But other than that, like w within Gaza itself, there's like no military presence of like the Israeli army or the Egyptian army or like that. So it felt like living in Gaza felt like living in a different world. Like it's very disconnected from the outside world. and not a lot of people get to actually travel outside of Gaza or get the chance to travel. It's really difficult to travel. So some people would actually live their entire lives not even getting near the border. I remember like during my um 23 years, the first 23 years of my life, I
Yeah.
only saw the Rafah border once, I guess. We were like there in a school trip and saw it like from far, but like never actually went there because I didn't have like a an opportunity to travel. And also like the borders between Gaza and Israel are there's kind of like a buffer zone. No one really goes there normally.
Yeah. Um, like when you're living in Germany, obviously, there's it's a free country, the same as Ireland. And from what I gathered from Gaza, you would have some of the occupational forces would come in to do to take some people out of houses in the middle of the night and kind of harass the people in Gaza um, on suspicion of being involved in some sort of resistance or whatever. Can you talk to me about that?
Of course, yeah. Like the army presence or the military presence of Israel in Gaza before the war started didn't even exist. Like
Okay.
that was probably true like before 2005. But back then I was like only 7 years old. I cannot really remember
Yeah, yeah,
anything like that myself. I was like a little child and my
yeah.
parents were protective. But after the army withdrawed from Gaza, the idea of like in like having a military presence where they can actually go into towns and take people out. This is probably similar to what we see in the West Bank. This is
Hmm.
how it actually is in the West Bank till today. They have like army presence. They can go into the camps and take people from their houses. But in Gaza, that actually doesn't happen. Like it never happened after 2025, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've never actually seen an Israeli um, army person with
In
my own
Gaza.
eyes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And why was that? What do you think? What were they afraid to come into Gaza, or was that they just didn't come into Gaza?
So in 2005, there was a decision from the Israeli government that they want to get out of Gaza because
Hmm.
there was a lot of resistance. There actually was some um, settlements in Gaza similar to the West Bank,
Hmm.
but because of the resistance and
Sorry to interrupt you there. Can you explain to me what a settlement is? I know what it is,
yeah,
but some people may not know what it is. So what is a settlement?
yeah, definitely. So a settlement is um, like an area or a small town of Israeli people that they take by force. It's probably originally would be like a land owned by people, but it was a little bit further from the city center. So it was like either agriculture land or um, like a little bit less significant of a land. They would take it by force and build an entire settlement there. It's a kind of like a
Uh,
small
Community.
uh, community, yeah, like self-sustained community. Um, and yeah, the only people that would live there would be Israeli people, but the Palestinians wouldn't be able to go there. It would be like very um, like protected by the army, sometimes fenced, all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in just to make a comparison, that would be the same as, say, take for example Berlin, the city you're living in at the moment. That would be the same as say Polish people coming in to Berlin and taking a section of the suburb. and telling the people that live there at gunpoint to get out, and then making a fort in that area and securing that for Polish people. That's this.
If the Polish government would actually build that for them, like the Polish government would finance the whole project, then yeah. But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they,
same thing.
it's yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so and I just wanted so people can kind of get into their heads what the reality of this is. So that's the same in Ireland. Well, this was done in Ireland hundreds of years ago anyway. But if you had a section of Dublin or outside Dublin where, say, for example, the British, which they did do anyway, came in and just took a section of the land and at gunpoint, or the threat of severe violence, told everybody to get out while they confiscated the land and the resources within that land. Um, it seems to me, Emad, very obvious the whole purpose of um, the conflict and everything like that. It seems very, very obvious to me the whole purpose of it. How do you see a future for Gaza? Where do you see where do you see things going from here? And this is
Oof.
we're 9 months into the conflict from when the war started in October.
Right. That's a very difficult question to answer, to be honest.
Mm,
And like I would have like given some ideas or some um dreams that I would wish to come true like
yeah,
beginning of the war. But after like 9 months of ongoing war and after seeing things that I've never even imagined to see in my life, like I would have never imagined getting to this point or seeing the amount of destruction that happened in Gaza or the amount of the people who have been killed. Like that didn't even occur to me in my wildest dreams. I would be like completely, yeah, I have no idea what the future might bring or where we are going from here because I would have not expected what happened
yeah. It was
during
never
these last months.
imaginable to see the level of destruction that's after happening. So
Exactly.
again, to make a comparison here, we'll say that Gaza City is comparably similar to Dublin in Ireland. You have a population there of approximately 2 million. Dublin has
Yeah.
about 1.5 million. So, again, and I'm saying this to be comparative. So basically, what happened in October is the occupational army carpet bombed the whole city, or the whole country or city of Gaza. So that would be the same as Dublin. So they pretty much leveled the whole city. They blew up all the universities, um, and most of the hospitals. Um,
Yeah.
and that's a very obvious military strategy to stop any kind of long-term sustainability for um, normal life. It's a very obvious military strategy to do that. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's the same. If that was Dublin, that would be like the British coming in, carpet bombing Dublin, with no regard to any kind of life and using kind of propaganda to say, well, oh, it's not this bad, it's not that bad. I think the difference in this conflict and any other conflict is the availability of social media.
Yeah.
Because I think without that, the world would probably be inclined to maybe believe the narrative coming out by, uh, the Israelis and the Americans, and some of the European states as well. Um,
Yeah.
from your friends and family in Gaza, do you get to speak to them much, or can you communicate with them? Is it difficult, or
Like at this point, it's actually, yeah, very difficult. We get to communicate with them every now and then just to get like general updates, like whether they are safe or whether they are still alive or, but not really much other than that. It's really difficult to get a hold of them. I actually was in Gaza myself when the war started. I happened to be visiting Gaza right before. the war in September.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I was planning to stay there for 1 month and get back to Germany. But 3 weeks, after 3 weeks of me visiting there, the war started, and then it was not possible for me to leave afterwards.
Okay, when you say not possible for you to leave, why? How is that? Can you explain the details of that to me?
Of course, yeah. So like the first few days of the war, I think actually the very first day, people who are like visiting Gaza tried to go to the border to leave,
Yeah.
and actually my brother also was one of those people. He wanted to leave as soon as he can. I wanted to stay a little bit with my family just to make sure that they are safe before. None of us ever imagined what's like
What
is
was going to
going to
happen next?
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like these people went to the border, and the border was actually bombed very close where the people are standing, like the
Yeah, yeah,
waiting
yeah.
area of the people.
Mm.
And after that um, event, the border was closed because of security reasons and safety reasons from the Egyptian side. It was closed,
Okay.
and no
So,
one.
so
Yeah.
when you want to leave Gaza, you have to go to a border section, and then you pass through that border section, and you travel to which airport do you fly out of, or how do you travel from passing through the border after that?
We, after passing to the border, we go through Egypt to Cairo
Ah, yeah.
and
Okay. So you
travel
fly it.
from
Yeah,
Cairo
yeah.
airport. We don't have any airports in Gaza. Like
Yeah.
traveling in and out has only to happen either through Egypt or through Israel.
Okay.
But traveling through Israel is very rare. Like it doesn't happen that often. And you have to be like to have like a very complicated, long process of getting a security check in order to do that. And Palestinians typically do not get that. Like if you have a
Okay.
second passport, you
Yeah, yeah.
might be able to travel through Israel if you are a foreigner coming with an aid organization or something like that. It might happen, but for us Palestinians, it's almost only the possibility to travel out of Gaza to be through Egypt.
Through Egypt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we go to like a land border, and we cross the border into Egypt. Um, I can also talk a bit more about like how I am treated in Egypt as
Please
a
do. Yeah.
young adult. So the like after you get into Egypt, for me, for example, I'm not even allowed into Egypt. So the way that I would travel is I be transited by land to the airport directly. Um, and
So they
I
bring you by bus from the border of Gaza to Cairo airport directly.
exactly, yeah, because I'm not even allowed into the country, into Egypt. Um, and I'm actually not traveling to Egypt. Like when I first came to Germany, I had a German visa on my passport. So I'm not really traveling to Egypt. I'm going to Germany.
Mm.
So the process would be like after sometimes you might get rejected and get returned back to Gaza. Some people might be accepted. For me, after I was accepted, I was transmitted by a bus. There was a person from the border, accompanied, like from the Egyptian side, um, was our companion, um, and he takes all of the passports of all of the travelers in the bus with him, and the bus start driving from the border to Cairo directly.
Yeah.
We would have like one or two stops in between. But after we get into the airport, we are also put in a waiting room there, and you are only able to get your passport back when your flight is like an hour or 2 hours away. Um, and the officers in the airport would accompany you to your gate and give you the passport then.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Um,
they're nearly treating you like prisoners.
kind of, yes. Yeah. Um, actually not kind of, yeah, maybe worse.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well,
And
it just reminds me of, you know, it reminds me of one of those movies where they're transporting prisoners, and it's the same. It's a very similar type of way of transporting prisoners, um, of what you just described, you know. And at the same time, I presume that everybody that's going are probably similar people like yourself, educated, that hold degrees in technical subjects and are traveling to a different country to work.
yeah. Yeah, most of the people are either going to like to a work opportunity or like they have to have a visa. Like other than that, there's actually it's very difficult to get out of Gaza. Like that actually was the first time I ever traveled because I had a very good reason, which is the work visa on my passport. But like for a touristic visa, it would be possible. It wouldn't be impossible, but it would be very difficult.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like the situation or the way that I was um treated when I was traveling is a little bit also different than like old people how like the old people would be actually allowed into the country. They would give them like 72-hour visa into Egypt. So they would get into Egypt itself. They have like 72 hours to travel. Um, and people like families as well might get a visa, but for young men between the age of, I would say, probably 18 to 40 or 45 even, um, you have like it's like this
Yeah,
transit
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you find life in Germany compared to Gaza? Do you like it? Obviously, I'm sure you miss home the same as anybody else would miss their home. Um,
Yeah.
do you see how do you find life in Germany compared to Gaza?
It's very different, I would say. Like it's very comfortable in many ways. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I really love it as well. And I actually been in discussions with some German friends here in Germany. They sometimes are a little bit curious to ask about how life is like in Gaza.
Hmm.
And I remember one time I was explaining to my German friend that we don't have electricity 24 hours. Like this is not possible like in Gaza. It's not 24 hours electricity. In best scenarios, it would be 8 hours on, 8 hours off. And it would alternate. Sometimes it's even less. And I was like explaining that to him, and he was like, that's really difficult for me to imagine. Like, I never
Hmm.
thought about electricity to be something. He never thought about it at all. Like, it's just something he turns on the light and it
Yeah,
turns
yeah,
on.
and it works.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like very difficult for him to relate to that. Um, Also, like the weather is quite different in
Yeah, yeah,
Germany.
yeah.
In Germany, it's actually raining right now.
Mm. The weather in Gaza is generally very good, is it?
It's yeah, it's actually very sometimes in summer it gets very warm. Like we do have only two seasons. We don't have like spring or autumn. It's either hot or winter.
Yeah, yeah.
And it gets really, really warm in summer. Um,
And tell me,
and
I meant to ask you before at the earlier part of the conversation, what's your qualification from university and what's your job, if you don't mind me asking?
Of course. I after I finished high school, I actually went to the university. I studied medicine for a year
Yeah.
and then decided to switch majors. That wasn't for me. And after that, I studied software engineering.
Okay.
Um, so I finished software engineering from Gaza, um, and I finished only my bachelor's. And after that, I was able to get a job in Gaza for a year or so. and after that I came to Germany.
Ah, I see. Yeah. And does your qualification from Gaza does that internationally recognized?
Yes, yeah. Like the university that I went to is recognized in Germany, and
Okay.
I would imagine in everywhere as well.
Yeah, yeah. Um, where do you see the I suppose it's difficult and talking to people from have you a big family that's remaining in Gaza at the moment?
Yeah, I do have all of my uncles and my cousins, extended family members as well. My immediate family was also in Gaza and were able to get out little by little. Luckily, my mother and my siblings and their children, they are all out right now. They're in Egypt.
Okay.
Um, that was very difficult to happen,
To get
but
them
the
out.
rest of to get them out, yeah, it was very, very difficult.
Okay. Why was that?
Um, so after crossing the border, after that instance of
Yeah.
like bombing the border, um, it became after some time possible for people to leave, but only the people who have other passports or second passports. So countries around the world would ask for their citizens in Gaza to get out through Egypt, and that was the only way.
Ah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and for the only people to get out of Gaza
Mm-hmm.
is to get their name listed on some kind of list. They
Mm-hmm.
would like contact their embassy or the
Yeah.
country, and they would ask them to be evacuated and put their names on the list. But if you don't have a second passport, you won't have a like there was no process for that at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So your family are in Cairo at the moment and they're safe.
Yes, my mother and my siblings, they are in Cairo right now. And they were able to get out, like my mother and two younger siblings got out in February. My other brother and his family went out end of February, beginning of March, and my two sisters were able to get out. I don't even remember, like maybe in May. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And do they plan to come to Europe or are they going to stay in Cairo or are they thinking maybe go back to Gaza if things stop?
Um, that's a good question. It's really very difficult to predict the future for
Yeah, I
them
suppose
because
it's difficult.
they only when they were able to get out, they only got a visa that is valid for 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
and there was only a process to extend it to 45 days, which they did, and now it's expired. And currently there is actually no like they don't hold any papers there, like legal papers.
Okay.
Um, and in order to get to any country, they have to have like some countries requires you to have a residency in the country that you're applying for the visa from.
Yeah.
So for my mother and siblings, I tried to invite them to Germany. I sent the invitation visa to them in Egypt, but one of the requirements is to have a residency there, which they don't have.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's very difficult. Like the main priority right now is to for my younger siblings to continue their studies where they left off in university.
What age are they?
My sister is 21
Okay.
and my brother just finished high school before the war. He's 18
Okay.
and both were studying software engineering as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, my sister is in her third year and my brother was like starting the very first few days of his university life before the war started,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that stopped. Yeah,
I remember hearing somewhere over the last while of the literacy rate in Gaza was amongst the highest levels in the world
yeah,
before the war. I spoke to your friend Emma, and she was telling me about the kind of the way that a lot of people were leaning towards software engineering and these type of degrees that would allow people to work remotely, you know,
Yes.
which has great benefits for people all around the world, you know.
Right.
And obviously it can allow you to maybe earn a better salary than you would in a country with a lower sort of a monthly salary, you know, like for example, Germany or Ireland, you know.
Yes.
So like it's great to encourage people to do that. You know, I see lots of people in Ireland that are software engineers, studied very well, and you know they do quite well. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, listen, it was great to talk to you, Emad, and just for the moment, I'm gonna wrap up the conversation, and I hope to maybe speak to you again, and we'd like to keep in touch
Of
as
course.
well, and hopefully if there's anything that we can do, or you know, to your with your family and stuff like that. I don't know what that is we can do, but I think the general census with people here is that you know, people want to help, and
Yeah.
at the same time, it just seems nonsensical. Uh,
Yeah.
the amount of, like, the whole world wants to help, but at the same time, you know, you see the continuation of all of this going on, and
Yeah.
the narrative from the media is that nearly it's actually not happening at all. You
Yeah.
know, because without social media and the different platforms, um, people wouldn't realize
Definitely.
that's what's going on. And for ordinary people in Ireland, particularly in rural parts of Ireland outside the city, you know, it's a far distant thing, and a lot of people don't actually understand the magnitude of the devastation which is occurring in Gaza, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, well, look, it great to talk to you, and um, I hope that speak to you soon. And
Definitely. Great to talk to you
I,
too. Thank you so
I'm
much.
just on that point there. I'm just going to stop the recording, and this.
Right.
So I stop recording now, okay?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, look, it's thanks very much for talking to me, Emad,
Of
and
course.